Hi Flosstube, I'm Misty Purcell. Welcome to my channel. Today is Monday, May 11th, and we're already a third of the way through the month of May. I don't know how that's happened. I am happy to be here and I welcome you if this is your first time. Welcome back if you've been here before. I am a stitcher, a designer, a fabric dyer, a multi-crafter. I like doing all the things. So, how have you been? Hope you've had a good week. I hope your mania is going well, whether it's sane or insane. I'd be curious to know what you're doing, if you're trying to rotate projects, if you're starting a bunch of new things, and how you're liking it. I'll be sharing with you how my mania has been going so far. This is my first week of summer break, no teaching. And I have to say I've been so busy that I don't know how I found time to teach normally. It's been a crazy busy week, mainly because I was getting a design ready to release and another design and, well, on and on. But I did have enough time to, that's great, there's a lot of noise around here today. I did have enough time to take Saturday off. And so I had a Crafty free-for-all on Saturday, so I'll talk about that too. Thanks for all of your comments on my last two videos. I'm still working through the comments 2 videos ago. I apologize, I haven't gotten a chance to like all of them or comment. I'm trying to catch up, and YouTube is just kind of selectively sending me comments, and then it just won't for a while, and then it will, and it just kind of goes back and forth. So I don't know what's going on with YouTube. They're having issues apparently. So I will be trying to catch up on that. But thank you, I appreciate your comments. I did have some questions on my last video, so I made note of those, the ones that I could find, to answer them today. So I'll bring them up as appropriate. So first, before I talk about my mania, I would like to talk to you about my newest design that I released. Okay, so the garbage truck went through and now it's a little quieter. This was a problem when I was teaching too. Once we transitioned to remote learning and I'd be teaching class Monday morning, and the garbage man would come by and it was very loud. Luckily, it usually didn't interrupt class, and one time we were broken out into groups, and so I just didn't go into any of the group rooms until the garbage truck had gone by. But anyway, so let me tell you about my new design. So this is Liberty Quaker, and I just love how this turned out. This was a really fun piece to design and to stitch. There's lots of little details in it which I enjoyed coming up with. So this is stitched on 32 count Snow Day, which is a fabric that I dye. It is close in color to, I think, Picture This Plus Sterling. So I would recommend that as an alternative if you are unable to get my fabric. And 2 strands of floss over 2 fabric threads. Several of these colors require a couple of skeins or 3 skeins. Obviously, it depends on whether you're stitching with 1 strand or 2. And if you're a 14 or 28 count stitcher, you may need a second skein of the darker gray, which is Weeks Dye Works Blackboard. I had a decent amount left, and I estimated how much I thought you would need, and it seems like you'll have enough, but I can't be sure because my estimations can sometimes be off based on, you know, the estimate is like me stitching a little square and calculating, but obviously you're almost never stitching just a square on a cross stitch piece. So let me tell you about the design, and I'll tell you a little bit about the pattern. So I doodle before classes, and I just keep a notebook. So I would take the notebook with me, and when I had time before classes in the fall, I would just doodle a little bit. And then in the spring, I actually was intentional about it, and I intentionally went to campus early and would try to just doodle a notebook for like 20 minutes or so before class in the mornings. And so I had a doodle, and it was the basket with the flags, and initially it had a rooster. And so then I was preparing for market, And if you're new here, this year was my first year going to market as a designer. So I was preparing for market, and you know, you finally get to the point where like, okay, things are stitched, things are getting done, I can sort of breathe. And then it's like, oh my God, now I have to start preparing for what comes after market, because like as soon as the market's over, you have to start over again. So before market hit, I was like, okay, I got to start designing again, even though I'm kind of tired. Like I've just got to kind of get back to it. So I did. So I grabbed my doodle and was like, well, what can I do with this doodle? What can I, because I liked the idea, where can I take it? And usually I don't know where a design's going to go. I just have like part of an idea, and I just have to kind of work my way through it, and hopefully it ends up as a design. And sometimes it doesn't, often it does. So this one then, the chicken, the rooster, he got booted out pretty quickly, and the squirrel took his place. And for quite a while, I just had the squirrel with the planter and the 3 acorns, which are satin stitched. If you don't want to satin stitch the acorns, you don't have to. I think it's pretty fun to do satin stitching, and I think it's not hard, because you're basically just going up one hole with your 2 strands of floss, going straight across, going down in the next hole, over and over and over again. So it's not complicated at all. Did you ever think about the fact, I was thinking about this the other day when I was thinking about explaining how satin stitch works. Like, obviously it can be more complex, but a lot of stitching is just going up in one spot and coming down in another with your floss. Like, when you think about it, it's not that bad, most of it. Anyway, so then he just sat for a while, and I could not figure out what he wanted to be. And so then finally one day I was like, just put something on there, and then you can delete it because you think it looks bad, but at least it'll give you a point to start. So I put a star in, and then suddenly I got an idea. And I think the star probably became this area here of the flag. I can't quite remember what the exact order was of my ideas. But then after that, I started to get the idea for doing a Quaker, and I've been wanting to do a Quaker for a while, but I was initially thinking a Halloween Quaker, which hasn't happened yet, but it's on my someday list to design. And so I looked at some traditional Quaker motifs, and you can see this little bird here. So I looked at a Quaker bird, and then I was like, how can I make something like that, but that's like the misty version of that bird? So had to make him chubby. You can see there's a little crown there. I had a lot of fun designing that bird. And then there's another little bird up there. And just making these motifs. So I just, came up with a bunch of motifs and played around with them. It's actually a really fun exercise. I've talked about it before. You come up with a motif and then try just changing like 1 or 2 things about it, and you've got a completely different looking motif. It's really, really cool. So that's what I did here a lot of the time. Just deleting something, adding something, you get a bunch of different motifs. I love doing that. It's kind of a fun exercise. And then, I'm a sucker for bunting. So I had added in some bunting. And, this is very quilt inspired because I'm a quilter. And then as I was coming up with the word liberty, and I really like my curly Q letters, like I'm a big fan of curly Q letters. Then I thought it needed something else. And then I was like, oh, I could intersperse the word America amongst the letters liberty. So it's kind of this like little bonus where from far away, you don't necessarily notice it, but then as you come closer, you see all these little things that you didn't notice originally from far away. So that's something I really like about this design. And the stars I stitched, I tried to get them so that the light part was one section and the dark part of the floss was the other. And I matched it. So there's like a light section here and a light section there. And so that was just intentional stitching on my part, and sometimes cutting the floss where I wanted it to be so that I could have that effect. You don't have to do that. That's just how I wanted to do it for fun. So this piece is available. The design is available from Needle Workshops now. And this is what the pattern looks like. It's printed on cardstock. I experimented with taking the photo to the edges of the pattern this time, and I really like how it looks. I think it turned out really well. So it's a 2-page leaflet basically it's split across the 2 pages, and then the colors, the amount that you'll need for 32 count or 16 count symbols, conversion for DMC, and then this time I added the number of stitches for each color in case that's useful to you for calculating as well. So shops have this now. You can order it from your favorite needlework shop. And let me see, was there anything else? Nope, I think that was it. If you're wanting to order supplies from me or the pattern from me, I will have it later. I want to give shops an opportunity to sell it first. So I will have it at the end of May, and I will announce when it's available via my newsletter. If you're not signed up for my newsletter, I always link it in the description below the video, or you can contact me and I'll add you to my newsletter mailing list. Okay, so that was Liberty Quaker. I had a really good time with that one. I hope that you have a great time stitching it. It was really fun for me to stitch, and I think it's like kind of a fun piece. You know, it's supposed to look like a flag. There's a lot of flags in this one. I like the soft colors. For me, this is kind of a soft palette. I really liked working with these colors and these flosses, and one thing that was important to me since I was doing a lot of white stitching would be that the white stitches look good. So I made sure that I wasn't going to design with anything, because I was doing it over 2 strands of floss. I wanted to make sure that the stitches looked good with 2 strands of floss in white. So the floss color that I chose, which was Weeks Dye Works in the color Linen, that floss looks really nice. And I think the stitches turned out really well. So I sometimes have problems with my stitches looking nice in white, but I did not feel that they were any issue for me with the color Linen. Okay, so that's that. Let's talk about Mania. So I don't know if you know, but some designers are doing a design mania. This kind of goes back to my doodling thing. They're all doing it different ways. And the way that I'm doing it, and this is just something I've been doing for a while, but I got out of the habit, is, as I said before, I'll do, usually on weekdays, I'll spend 15 to 20 minutes doodling in a sketchbook. And for me, the point is not necessarily that I'm coming up with a design. I mean, it might be a design, it might be other crap. You know, I don't know what's going to happen, but it might be inspired, and I just need to be creative. Like, I think that I personally, and I don't know if you have felt this way, one of the reasons that I never designed, well, I didn't never design things, but I rarely designed anything, was because I was under the assumption that in order to design, you had to already have like a million ideas in your head, and that the people who did designing always already had a million ideas in their head. But what I have found is that when I'm willing to have ideas, then I have them. But I had to like want to have them or even look for them. So when I decided to try designing, that's when the ideas started coming. It was like I thought I was open to it, but apparently in some way I wasn't open to it. So the more that I am open to being creative, then the more creative I can be. And so the doodling is just kind of a creative exercise for me to let me have ideas or be open to ideas. And sometimes I will actually take like a design idea that has popped into my head, or that I've even started working on the computer, and I'll sketch it out in my notebook just to keep thinking about it some more, or to deal with the scale or the shapes a little bit more. And sometimes I'll just sketch like a word, or I'll do a drawing prompt. It's been really good, and it's helped me a lot actually in having ideas for design. So I'm glad that I started doing that. So one of them last week that I did was a prompt, and it was food or fruit. And there's a lot of prompts I don't like, that I'll just kind of ignore, but I liked that one, so I just thought I'd show you what I did. This was a few days of doodling, so you can see that I chose the apple. And I'm not trained in any kind of art at all. Like, I've never taken any kind of drawing class or anything. I don't know anything about art, but you know, I always want to work on getting better at drawing and being a designer. So I'd like to take a drawing class this summer at some point, maybe an online one. But this is what I did. So this is kind of an example of what a doodle could look like. So this is something that, you know, you could do if you want to have a creative exercise. The purpose is not that it be good. Like, it doesn't have to be good. It's just to show up, basically. Like, I'm showing up, I am ready to be creative. Let's see what happens. And sometimes what happens is just lame, but sometimes something good happens. And so whenever I need an idea for a design, I can go to my sketchbook and I've got ideas, and it's really helpful. So that's design mania for me. Other people are doing actual designs or whatever, but it's been interesting. So your favorite designer or designers might be doing this themselves this month. Okay, so one question I had from last week as we go into my whips was, what fabric do you do over one stitching on? And you can do it on linen, even weave. I'm doing, you're already basically doing the over one on Ada. But I'm doing it on Linda, which is an even weave. It's at the bottom of the pile. So this is Star Spangled Spectacular, which is one of my whips. And so instead of skipping a hole, as you normally would if you're stitching on an even weave or a linen, skipping one hole and going into the next, I'm just going right into the very next hole. So it's 27 count is what it would be if I stitched it over 2 fabric threads. I'm stitching it over 1. So it's like basically like 54 count. Ah, it's so cute. So since last time, here's the, we'll just go right into, so hopefully that answers your question about over 1 stitching. And you don't have to do over 1 stitching ever. You could do over 1 stitching all the time. It's just your preference. My eyes can only, I'm not using magnification right now. My eyes can only handle about an hour at a time of over 1 stitching. And then they're like, okay, we're done. Star Spangled Spectacular by Brenda Gervais. This is one of my whips that I'm working on in Mania. I stitched on this for an hour this past week. This uses overdyed flosses, but I converted to DMC. I think I did a pretty good job. And it's like almost the exact same size as the pattern photo. Have you noticed? It's awesome. So I discovered that I screwed up the urn, and actually I screwed up the little chimneys too. And I was like, all right, am I fixing this? And then I found a way to not go backward, but to just kind of fix it. And so it's not perfect, but whatever, it's good. Now we've got the mail carrier coming. It's a busy day around here. Okay, so that's Star Spangled Spectacular. I spent an hour. I would have liked to have gotten the flowers done in the urn, but I just didn't have time. Okay. That's in colorway Sparrow. I don't think I mentioned that. Then, what else did I work on? I worked on Ye Old Crow for an hour. I was kind of hoping that would be enough to finish it, but no, not quite. This is by Heart and Hand. I am stitching it on 46 count Opulence, which is one of my fabrics. I haven't dyed that one in a while. I dyed it in the fall. So this is my first time stitching on 46 count. I did some vines up here, and I stitched the letter Z, and I did the D. So I'm thinking probably another 1 to 2 hours on this to finish, not including the buttons probably. I'm using Pea Coat by Weeks Dye Works to stitch this. That is not the recommended floss, but I really like Pea Coat. It's kind of a bluish black. I think it's very pretty. Alrighty. Summer delivery, that was another question. This was my pre-mania, pre-birthday start. My I Just Feel Like Starting start by Plum Street Samplers. Someone asked what I'm using for the sheep color. The sheep is kind of green. Not so much in this picture, but the color, which is terrapin, it's kind of green. So I am using, or I will be using, Dolphin by Weeks Dye Works. Of course, I haven't tested that yet, so, you know, maybe I'll change my mind, but that's what I've pulled. It's a little light compared to that, but I think it'll work. We'll see. Okay, I am stitching that. I put in 2 hours on this because one did not feel like enough. So this is on 40 count Sparrow. 1 strand of floss over 2 fabric threads. My own conversion, I converted almost everything. It's looking great. So I left this flower on, it's a kind of a pinwheel. I don't know, whatever. This star thing, there's supposed to be red in it. I did not put the red in yet. I like how it looks now. I'll see when I get more stitched. And if I think I need to fill it in with the red, then I will. And if I don't, then I won't. So I'm stitching that on my sit-on stand, which shall not be named. And I'm getting more used to it. I had it in between my legs. Now I'm sitting on it on the side. And there's times when I'm really comfortable and times where it feels like I'm having trouble with like my shoulders and being in the right position. I haven't figured it out. It almost feels too tall, but I've got it on the lowest height. I'm going to try, I ordered the 6-inch hoop for that stand, and I'm going to try that as well. I don't think that'll really help with the height issue, but I just wanted the option to do smaller projects. I think I'll get it eventually. I think it'll work out fine. I just need to figure out the most comfortable position to use it. Okay, B-Skep by Blackbird Designs. Did I not grab it? Please hold. Okay, so I'm stitching the B-Skep from Agnes Platt's Strawberry Sampler. I have more of this coming. I had more of it coming last time. I had Loose Feathers, I had this, I had Sweet Land of Liberty, and it came. And I thought, well, that's weird that the box isn't the usual box that Hoffman sends. And then I thought maybe it's been damaged, and then I saw on the outside of the box that it had been relabeled because the label had been damaged. And I was like, oh, okay. So I opened up the box, and like half of my order was fine. And the half that was the Blackbird Designs books was soaking wet. And they were stuck together, and it was sad. So I had to throw them out. They should be getting here today, I think. Hopefully today or tomorrow. So look for those soon coming back into stock. Anyway, back on track. So I'm stitching this. This was my birthday start. I don't know if I mentioned this before or not, but one thing that you want to be aware of when you stitch this, I guess I'll show you on the actual piece. One thing you want to be aware of when you stitch this is that one side here, and I think at the bottom as well, this particular one, this little dip, is longer than all of these other ones. So watch out for that. I noticed it right away, luckily, because I started in this corner and I actually bothered to count the next one, which it's easy not to do that, to just assume they're the same. And normally I would do that, but apparently I was really on the ball on my birthday and I didn't assume, thank God. So I'm trying to just work across and make sure that my border is right. It is, or if I was gonna need to fudge it. So I stitched this area and this, and I'm really happy with it. It's so pretty. Added some more bees in. I'm making my bee wings a little bit wider or longer than what they're charted. I just thought it looked good, so I did that. This is 40 count macchiato. The question was, what scroll rod am I using for this piece? This is an Artisan design scroll rod, and you can order their scroll rods from their website. I don't think they do wholesale to shops. I use these little cord keepers. Not sure if that's what they're called. They're for your device cords to keep them tidy or to wind them. I feel like my brain's shutting down. Sorry. You can probably tell I'm a little less perky today. I'll come to that in a minute. Anyway, I use these in weaving, and then it occurred to me that I could use these here because sometimes these little dowels can get kind of pulled out or not stand as well, and then I just slide that on there and then they stay. So that's why I use these. These are Velcro. You just twist them so that the Velcro is on the inside and the soft part is on the outside so you don't catch anything like yarn or floss. I'm tired of winter. Many of you across the United States got a little bit of snow the other day, and I was among those people who got snow. It's been gray and rainy, and then it snowed. And it was fine. We had some squalls, whatever. It didn't stick. But it's just been gloomy, and I need sun. And last night, I didn't sleep that well. And last night, I had a dream that it just kept snowing and snowing and snowing until there were these huge mounds of snow. People were trying to shovel out. And finally, I was just like, whatever, let's put up the Christmas decorations. And that's what we did. So I think I'm just ready for sun. Tomorrow is supposed to be sunny. Thank goodness. Holding on for tomorrow. On the bright side, I was happy to go to the grocery store, get everything I need. I went to Michael's thinking I was doing curbside pickup. We just moved to fewer restrictions here in my county. We're like the bottom of the bottom part of Pennsylvania that has fewer restrictions. We've moved to phase yellow. We are color coded. So retail stores can open very carefully. Michael's had been doing curbside, but they switched on Friday when retail stores could reopen, apparently. So when I went there today for my curbside pickup, there was like no sign there. And there were all these cars. When there's only like 3 or 4 cars normally in the parking lot, when you have like double or triple that number, it's like a lot of cars. So I realized they must be open, and I was like, oh. So I only walked around for maybe 5 minutes, but it felt really good. I just have to say, it felt really good to just look at things that weren't my house or food. Okay, moving on. B-Skep. Okay, Away We Ride. I got back to that. That was my birthday start from last year. I'm still not quite in the mood for Halloween. I feel like it's almost time to stitch Halloween for me. Probably next month. Since there's usually like Christmas in July, I'm contemplating Halloween in June. We'll see. I am just trudging along on this endless acorn border. I think there's like 30 or so of these little acorns. And they're amazing. This piece is amazing. They are worth it. It's just that I knew going into it that doing the same thing over and over again would be a little bit tedious for me. And especially because they're not fast to stitch, the tedium is a little extra. But here we are. I'm swinging down. I think I counted about 6 more of these guys. I don't know how long that's going to take, but I'm going to be real happy. I'll celebrate somehow when these acorns are done. Let me know how I should celebrate. Should I start a new project? Should I have a glass of wine? Piece of pie? What should I do? Okay, so this is 40 count macchiato also. I don't think there's anything else I need to say about that one. And Vintage Birds. So I talked last time about how I was a bit stalled on that one because I wasn't sure about the colors. This is by Jeanette Douglas. This was a start because I felt like it. And So what I had decided to do, and what several people agreed that I should do, is just keep going with other parts of the design and come back. So I started stitching this green down here, and then I felt a lot better about this orange up here. So my issue was the orange with the purple. I just have issues about orange and purple, except at Halloween. Just one of my quirks. We all have them. That's one of mine. So once I got more of this green in, then this was bothering me less because it warmed this up. And it also just took some of the focus away. So I began stitching the flower again because I felt better about it. And that's what I got in an hour of on this. Very pretty. So we're back in business. I didn't want to let it sit too long, or it could be, you know, doomed to sit for a really long time. And I like it, so I don't want to do that to it. Lastly, oh, that's 40 count. It's pretty much Sparrow. It's a little bit browner than Sparrow, but it's pretty close. I was kind of experimenting with colors. So that one's just a little bit more brown, but it's very similar. I think I stitched on this since the last time you saw me. I'm not sure, to be totally honest. This is berries in a basket. So my apologies if I'm showing you the same thing I showed you last time. You probably can't tell though, right? I can't. 40 count macchiato. This is designed by Jenny of Home Stitchness. You can buy her pattern on Etsy. I changed the white to show up better on my fabric. I did take the yellow out of the one strawberry on the right side. So I'm just leaving the little holes because I prefer that look. All right, so those were all my whips that I worked on. So here's what I did. I told myself, why don't I just keep working on my whips? I'll start a new thing when I feel like it, and I'll just rotate an hour a whip like I was doing for 24 hours of cross stitch. And I found it very dissatisfying. Like, it's fine to do that for a marathon, but it's apparently not satisfying to me in general. And I think there's a couple reasons. One reason is that sometimes I would stop and I'd wish I could do like a little bit more, but my hour was up. So I would have liked to have seen a little bit more progress in some part of what I was stitching, and it bothered me that I was stopping. And the other thing is that sometimes, like the first 30, 40 minutes of it, I'd be like, meh, and not really feeling it. And then I'd get into it in the last 10 or 20 minutes of my hour. I'm like, okay, you're done, next whip. So I don't think that's really working for me, but I was like, well, just try it and see what happens, and then just keep going so you have the experience. So I did. So I guess I'm going to try rotating fewer whips, spending more time, like at least maybe 2 hours or so. I'm still having some trouble balancing like my own model stitching, which I'm doing a lot of, with stitching my my whips or my for fun. My model stitching's fun too, so I don't know. It's not really like a good differentiation, but I'm doing a lot of model stitching, so trying to fit them both in is a little bit challenging. Even though, like, theoretically I should have all this free time, like, I don't know where the free time is. Where is it? Except for Saturday when I had the Crafty free for all. And I also found, so I actually was able to take Saturday off entirely. It was really hard. I got kind of bored, and I'm like, maybe I can't take Saturday off completely. Like, maybe it feels like during the week I need more time, and then on the weekend, on Saturday, I need a little less. So what I'm thinking is that maybe distributing an extra hour every day of free time and then only having like a half day off on Saturday might be better, because it just, I don't know. I didn't know what to do with myself and I felt lost. So I came back to this project from a couple weeks ago and I started over. Not with everything, but with the things pretty much that had embroidery on them. So the problem was that let me start over, sorry. Okay, this is the Santa ornament by Larissa Holland. She's Crafts on Etsy. It's a felt Christmas ornament. I had problems with the Sulky product. Sulky replaced the product. It's much better. So it's a stabilizer. It's a printable stabilizer. You put it on your felt, helps you embroider everything and cut out, then you soak it off. So Sulky, I didn't even contact Sulky about it because I thought with all that's going on right now, they might have like reduced staff and I didn't want to bother them. But the designer tagged them on my post on Instagram where I was saying that I'd been running into some problems, and they contacted me right away and were like, we'll help you. So they sent me a replacement stabilizer, and they talked me through how to remove the bad stabilizer. So the directions are to soak. The soaking makes it worse if you have the bad stabilizer. If you just rinse right away in like hot water, it still gunks up, but it's really easy to remove. So this piece I experimented with and it came off fine. It's just that I was following the instructions on the other stuff, and that's where I ran into problems, because once you soak it and then you use hot water, it just does not want to come off. But if you don't soak it and you just immediately rinse with the hot water, it will come off. So then I used the new product and it worked great. And that one I soaked and it came off real easy. And so I did this is the hat band. I redid the sleeves, whoops. And I also changed the blue. The blue looked a little bit dull to me, so I went with a little bit brighter, lighter blue. So these are the sleeves. I'm all discombobulated today. I redid this whole thing. I know you thought my embroidery was fine, but I didn't think it was fine. This looks way better. I need to still put on the beads and the sequins here. I decided to leave them off until after I'd washed it because it's pretty clear where they go. It's on the end of each of these little spokes. So I just thought I'll just wait, and then because I just wasn't sure how easily this would come off.